Hey everyone, Chad here. I've reflected on our 130 plus episodes and want to highlight this favorite. I'd love to hear what you take away from this one. I'm your host, Chad Peterman, and today we have a very special guest and friend of mine that is going to help educate us all on some important things we in the home service industry should be thinking about as we roll into 2024. If there are things that you're not paying attention to, if there are areas of your business that it can improve, I will assure you that our guest today can give you some tools that are going to help you navigate what could be, and what most are saying is a tough 2024. So without any further ado, today I would like to welcome from GoodLeap, Gail Tripp. Welcome to the show, Gail.
Thank you. Thank you very much, first of all, for just allowing me the opportunity to come on and do this. This is very exciting, Chad. We've known each other now almost coming up on 2 years.
Time flies.
I'm telling you, it really does. It feels like I was just out there January, like I said, 2 years ago, and it was 11 degrees.
Yeah.
So I remember that vividly.
Absolutely. So some exciting news. There's more that we'll get into as to kind of our partnership on Can't Stop the Growth with GoodLeap. We'll get into that towards the back end of the conversation. But first, really just want to kind of get your background, Gail. I know you've spent a ton of time in the consumer financing kind of space and have done a number of different things. So why don't you give the listeners a little bit of background so they know a little bit more about you, and then we'll kind of dive into what we're going to talk about today and hopefully help out our listeners.
Yeah. So I moved to California, I guess it's coming up on 15, 16 years ago. I had lived in a few different states, but we moved here, and that was in 2008 when the crash happened and all of that fun. And that was right when we moved to California. So I decided, since jobs were scarce and it was just a hard time, I ended up getting my notary license and opened up my own notary business, and did that for about 6 or 7 years. Had a very chance encounter doing a refi signing with a guy that was with one of the financing companies here in California called PACE Financing. It's a type of financing specific here on the West Coast and in Florida. And it was literally just by chance that I ended up at this company called White Green, now about 10 years ago, and got into this through that chance meeting and just completely fell in love with it because, I had a business background in business management and run some different companies, but had never really truly been in the financing arena. So PACE was like really diving into it. It's probably one of the most complex financing tools out there. And so got to be really good at that. I was there for several years. Then one of my contractors convinced me to leave financing for a few years and go and sell solar and home improvements. So I did that and determined that that's a hard job. People don't really understand how hard it is to convince somebody to give you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to go out and add solar, or I was doing roofs and actually some HVAC. So the cool thing for me was it gave me the option to see, or the experience rather, to see what it's like to be on that side of the table when you're trying to convince someone and trying to sell them something. So I did that for a couple of years. And then the same guy that got me into White Green called me up when there was another PACE company. He convinced me to get back into that. So I did that for a few more years until GoodLeap came calling, coming up almost 3 years ago now, to start up this home improvement division. There were 6 of us when we first started it out. GoodLeap's been in solar financing, and we've got a full service mortgage company. So as a company, we've been around for 20 years. But about 3.5 years ago, they decided to get into the home improvement space. So when they got about 6 of us together to open this up after Eric and Leandra got it going, now we're at like 70 something people. It's pretty crazy how in just a matter of 2 years, we've really exploded. So, for me, having that background of understanding truly how to use financing as a soft close and help you use that to further your business, and then being in the shoes of what it's like to be a contractor, I feel like those 2 pieces have allowed me to really understand the sense of urgency when a contractor calls me and they're at the kitchen table with that customer. I know what it's like. I feel that anxiety, like for the next hour, I can't answer my phone. If it rings, there's that anxiety that, I need to be helping somebody out there. That's kind of how I got into this.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you providing that background. And obviously today at GoodLeap, you are one of our, I like to call them kind of premium partners and kind of how we operate. And really what I want the listeners to understand is the power and importance of consumer financing. and then some of the differences between GoodLeap and others. And then also, I think together we can shed some light on how to use financing. I think so many contractors, so many people in the home service space that I talk to have such a negative connotation about financing, and they don't use it as a tool. They use it as a fallback, and they don't really ever understand the power of it. So I guess maybe educate us a little bit on how GoodLeap is different, how they try to position themselves within the, as you primarily work in the home services space. What's that look like?
I would say probably first and foremost is the level of customer service that we do bring to the table. When I'm talking to other contractors out there and they're switching over to us from different lenders, the one biggest complaint I hear is, I feel like I never have anybody to call if I have issues or problems. And, when you're out there at the kitchen table and you need help right then, it's imperative that you have a human to talk to. So I think that level of customer service, you may have heard me say this before, my guys all know it. I mean, the only time I'm not going to answer my phone is if I'm dead or I'm asleep. So pretty much it's going to be all the time my phone's on, regardless. Because furnaces don't know that it's Christmas Day if the furnace goes out, or if there's a store problem and it's right in the middle of a major holiday or Sunday afternoon during football, you definitely need help and your customer needs help. So I'm going to probably say the number one thing is our level of customer service and attention to detail, and truly understanding that we don't feel like we're a vendor for you. We feel like you're our partner. And I really feel like that's why this has been so successful for us the last 2 years, is we both feel that way. I really feel like you guys are friends and partners of ours more so than just I'm your finance person.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's a number of different financing companies out there. I'm sure those of you that are in the HVAC space, your equipment suppliers and everything has recommended you do this and do that and all of these things. And hopefully we can shed some light on kind of our strategy with financing here and then how you guys really come into play. I think the customer service piece is one of the most important. Tell us a little bit more. I know how often you're communicating with our comfort advisors and different people out there in the field. Give us kind of a rundown of what you aim to do. What do those conversations look like and how are you helping the people out there in the field?
Yeah. I mean, basically when I get a call from anyone at Peterman, lots of times, let's say that they submitted an application and there was an issue with it or maybe got declined. There are lots of things that we can do to turn that decline around and work with the comfort advisor while they're at the table real time with that customer to turn that into a path to success and a path to approval. So that's a big part of, the actual daily conversations, was there a client or, sometimes there's daily conversations with trying to get contracts cleared. Because every now and then we have to upload some of those if it's a larger deal. And then definitely trying to make sure that we get you guys paid as quickly as possible. Because at the end of the day, as a contractor, not only just getting that deal approved and getting it scheduled and installed, but you guys want to get funded as quickly as possible. So anytime there's any kind of a hiccup or any kind of an issue or something needs to be cleared in order to make sure funding gets done, all of those things basically just to get to a path to success, a path to approval, just to get you guys to be able to close more deals. A lot of what you're doing needs to be installed same day or next day because these aren't luxury items like, or aesthetic items. These are critical need items. If it's 30 degrees and their heat's out, they need heat that day. So it's doing whatever we can do on our end to make sure that you can fulfill your mission and help your customer in real time as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think, obviously you're not going to say it, but I'm going to say it for you, is that all of our comfort advisors have your phone number in their phone and they are using it multiple times every week to get deals done. I don't know that we track how many Gail deals we've got over the finish line, but talking to our sales staff, it's a lot. And if you as a home service provider are thinking about, well, financing, no one wants to do that, or the payments are high or whatever it is, to me, having you there and your team there to support our people out in the field, because a lot of times you're submitting an application and it seems like it just goes into the ether, right? We'll just wait and see if it comes back. Well, what we've been able to do, and with our partnership that I think is so important and so critical to our success with the GoodLeap platform, is being able to call somebody in real time and say, hey, they got declined. Is there anything that we can do? Or, hey, it doesn't seem to be, it's coming across. how can we help this customer? And I think together we've been able to help a ton more customers than would have otherwise been helped.
I would easily go out and say 20 to 30% of the time, we can turn that decline into an approval. And it could have been something just as easy as they put in a monthly income instead of an annual, and we need a certain amount of income. So putting it in correctly, sometimes it's user error, sometimes it's just getting creative, sometimes it's just adding a different co-borrower. We have a lot of different things that we can suggest and hopefully be helpful to be able to turn it around and get them approved. And I would say easily 20, maybe even 30% of the time we can do that. So that means that you didn't waste a lead to get that person out there in front of that customer. You were able to close that deal. And then, like I said, get it scheduled and installed in the next day or 2 or 3, and then everybody won.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too is the biggest piece is finding a financing partner. There's a number of different types of financing and vendors and all of these things only to settle on GoodLeap. And there's a reason that we've been with you for 2 years and plan to be with you for a long time into the future. Is a lot of people, when I hear, they're like, well, what are their credit approval ratings and all of these things, all of these factors that at the end of the day, you guys want to approve what you can and feel safe with it. And a lot of the time, I think we're focused on all the wrong things. Like if they didn't get approved, they're probably not going to get approved through anybody. So let's save the deals that they're close or whatever it may be, and then we can push those to the finish line. So I think that's important out there, and really finding a partner who's going to be there to help you get the thing, not just offer a product. It's more so that support on the other side that I think is extremely important. One of the things I'd like to ask you about, because obviously you work with a ton of customer-facing comfort advisors or salespeople or whatever they're selling, and then you're also working with kind of the companies and different stuff like that. What are you seeing as far as trends or changes within the industry that listeners should be thinking about as we go into 2024 and as it relates to maybe financing and using that as a tool?
I would have to say one trend, because, again, over the last decade that I've been doing this, would be how this rise of social media has really impacted our industry. And I think in an extremely positive way, because I feel like the types of things like what we're doing right now, it really kind of helps to level the playing field a little bit. This trend of larger companies like yourself opening up your doors in these companies that really want to emulate your success and how you've gotten there, and you're giving them the roadmap, which I think is just incredibly cool and generous. And so I feel like just how social media has, from like the Service Avenger site that you're on it and all of the different things that people now have access to get out there and get to that level of success faster. And, it's like not have to invent the wheel every single time. I think that that's been one really positive trend that I've seen over the last 10 years. I mean, I certainly never envisioned I'd be sitting here doing a podcast with you. So, I mean, it's just very cool how social media now is so much more, a norm for us than it was 10 years ago, and how I really feel like it's helped the industry grow, which I think is pretty exciting. Then probably not so positive a thing as far as like real time, what's going on right now in the economy, and a trend that I think, definitely owners and employers need to be aware of is people are struggling right now. We've had a rough few years. We're all, none of us need to be told the story. I mean, we went through COVID, we went through supply chain shortages, inflation really hit like a brick wall. A lot of people right now are truly having to make hard decisions between medicine and food and things, because, you go to the grocery store, you literally get half of what you got a year ago for the same amount of money. And that's impacting people's debt loads, which is impacting your credit score. So all of those things combined mean people don't really have, we probably didn't have a ton of reserves to fall back on to begin with, but now they really don't. So when they're in a situation where they desperately need to get heat, or their plumbing has failed, or their sewer's backed up, sometimes financing is going to be the only way they're going to be able to do it. So understanding that financing now isn't an option in the age that we live in. It truly is critical, and it's imperative. If as a company you want to survive, you definitely need to be offering financing. And even if your customers don't ask for it, sometimes the people that need it the most aren't going to ask for it. But you're going to be doing your customers a huge solid by offering them options early and often, and making sure they understand that, yes, we do have really great payment options available for you, because You've heard me use this analogy many times in the past, and I use it a lot, but I think it's so true. All of us, when we wanted to buy a car in the 80s, the 70s, nobody really used financing to get cars because they weren't that expensive. But a lot of the products and services that are offered now, especially in the HVAC world, they're not cheap. And so people now go in when they buy a car, not to spend $10,000 in cash, but they go in knowing what that monthly payment is that they can afford. And it's shifted, it absolutely has. But there's still a lot of companies out there that don't think financing is important. But they need to understand that people get sticker shock really easily, and they don't understand that a system's going to be $12,000, $15,000, $17,000. Telling them that they can get the services and that replacement that they need for less than $200 is a much easier sell than telling somebody they got to come out of pocket with $17,000, $18,000. So just understanding the climate we're in, hopefully next year it's going to turn around a little bit, but the Fed increased rates on us more this past year than ever in our lifetime. And that's impacted everything from mortgages to cars to anything we all go out and buy. And, people are now just struggling a little bit more. So you can really help your customers out by giving them these options for financing.
Yeah, so many great insights there that I think we can all learn from. I think that the one thing that you said that was critical at the beginning is not shying away from financing because you as a business owner wouldn't use financing. Well, that's great. But you're not oftentimes selling to you. You're selling to a homeowner who, doesn't probably have 15 grand laying around. And if you think about it, they weren't expecting to spend that 15 grand on a new sewer that they didn't even know was there, or a HVAC system that they thought was in good working order and now is being told, hey, this thing's on its last leg. And so I think really from a presentation piece, and you've been instrumental in kind of the training that we do and all of that, is that if we think about it, outside of a house and a car is probably one of the more expensive things that you in your adult life are going to buy. So if you buy a car, and very few people buy a house all cash or a car all cash, they're looking at what's my payment and how do I fit that in? I don't care what your income level is. That's what you're looking at. And it's really taking that stigma away from financing means you can't afford it to that all of our customers use financing. This is just how you buy things, really conditioning your customer there. One of the stats that I know, and you may know it actually better than I, is we finance in our business, we'll finance, I think it's a little over 80% of all new installs have some sort of financing attached to them. And the reason is not because no one in our service area can afford anything. It's because we use financing as a tool. So rather than a last resort. And so I think it's really shifting that conversation to financing up front. And, all of our salespeople, they present monthly payments.
But why you have excelled in it. I mean, I think of where you guys were at 2 years ago to where you're at now. It's that mentality and that philosophy of driving it and understanding how to use financing as a soft close. And you guys do it fabulously. You really do.
Absolutely. I mean, I've joked sometimes that we're essentially a financing company that essentially puts in furnaces and air conditioners, because that's really what we are. In order to get these jobs over the line, you talk about increasing average tickets and close rates. Well, this is the way to do it. It's a heck of a lot easier to move someone from $150 a month to $180 a month as opposed to 15 grand to 18 grand. It's a whole lot bigger gas.
Literally was just about to say, and not only is it going to help you get the deal, but it can help you upsell. That's the beautiful thing. When somebody not even sure if they're going to get approved, and then boom, they get approved for $45,000. They're like, not only am I going to get what I need, now I have, with that really low monthly payment and just paying maybe $20 more a month, now I can get what I want. And that helps everybody. That's a win for Peterman, and that's a win for the consumer.
Yep, 100%. You nailed it right there. We all talk about adding IAQ to systems and different stuff like that. Well, how much easier of a sell is, hey, I can get you an entire IAQ package that will take care of all of that for an extra $8 a month. How's that sound? So I think there's a ton of stuff here as far as the financing world goes. And obviously, we'll be talking a ton about this as we move into next year, how to use it as a tool and what to do. Talk a little bit about, because I always find this interesting, our most popular loan, I think, is a 12.15 year.
12.99.
Yeah, exactly. And so many people are afraid of interest. Like no one wants to pay interest. Well, like if they put it on their credit card, what's their interest? I read an article earlier this year that credit card interest payments are at an all-time high for what you're paying. So you're offering them something that's half of what they would normally get. Tell me a little bit about some of the contractors you use. Obviously, our business really well. Like maybe some of the other ones that were a little bit hesitant to get on. What were those things that you were able to help make click that they were pushing back against? And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I see it from a different perspective. Here we go.
Yeah. Going back to the credit card situation. So think about this scenario. You're in a home and somebody desperately needs, they don't have heat and they don't have money in the bank. So their first response is going to be in their head, well, I just have to put it on a credit card. And you're right. Most people have stellar credit. Even the credit cards that you can get with in the 800 plus range, you're still going to be paid anywhere from 18 to 22% interest on that credit card. So if somebody's pulling out a credit card, that usually means that's their last resort. They don't really have any other option to pay for some big unexpected expense other than a credit card. So if you can be their knight in shining armor and roll in with, listen, we do accept credit cards, but I can really help you save some money because are you going to be paying their credit card off in the next 30, 60 days? Well, no, that's why they pulled out a credit card, right? So if you can get them in a 15-year loan at $12.99, that's way more than any credit card that's out there right now. So you're really doing that customer a solid by helping them save money in the short term and really in the long term because they're not going to be able to pay that off. And then the other side of that I think is real critical, a lot of people don't understand, that credit card is their emergency fund. So if they're going to max out their credit card on having to replace their plumbing, their sewer, their heat, whatever, for the next catastrophe that's right around the corner, they're going to be stuck. So you're really helping them out by giving them another financier or another pot of money basically to bring to the table to allow them to use that. I think people that think that they can just survive in this industry on check, cash, and credit card, they've just completely missed the boat. And they're not helping their customers. Because at the end of the day, you can really help out your customers to help them get these very vital services that they need and help them continue to make the other payments that come up in their life and have the funds to do that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head as it relates to helping the customer. And obviously, we all want to do everything we can to make sure that the customer is well taken care of. They can get the solutions that they need for their house. I think the one thing that I would like you to talk about a little bit too is when I talk about our most popular loan, what I'd like to talk about is, and this is something we found with GoodLeap that I think has really revolutionized our business, is dealer fees. So a lot of your equipment vendors are going to say they got some rock solid deal with A, B, C, or D financing company, and it's only going to cost you as a dealer 15% of the sale. I would assume that most people out there, you're lucky to make 15%. The financing company makes more than you did on the actual deal. Tell me a little bit about, or kind of educate our listeners on kind of the dealer fee structure, and then maybe relate that to what we use and why we use it. And I can provide a little color on that as well.
Yeah. So by far, the most popular loan that you guys take advantage of is that 15-year term for the customer and a 12.99 interest rate. And that's a totally free loan. Doesn't cost you a dime for you guys to utilize that and offer it to your customer. And the beautiful thing is we always say, some people, as interest rates have risen, we talked about just a few minutes ago, that's risen almost a dozen times, more than ever in our lifetime. 12.99 might seem like a high interest rate, but again, compared to credit cards, it's quite a bit less. So with it being a 15-year term, stretching it out over that 15 years gives them the lowest monthly payment that's required. They can always chunk it down or pay more if they want to. And the beautiful thing with our loans is there's no dealer fee, no prepayment penalty fee if they want to pay it off early. And nobody, honestly, is probably going to go 15 years on an HVAC loan. More than likely, they're going to pay it off in the 3 to 5 year range. But with giving them that 15-year lowest monthly payment possible, you're not putting them in jeopardy of not being able to make that payment.
Yeah.
So we have other loans too that have extremely modest or very reasonable dealer fees. We have that 6 months, same as cash loan, no interest, no payment, that has a very modest dealer fee. And that basically can really give you an edge up for those cash buyers. There's a lot of people out there that do have cash, but here's a scenario that's very common. If you go in there and you offer them 6 months, same as cash, so they can hold on to their cash between now and the they get their tax return next year where we're at in the cycle, versus a competitor that comes in and might even be a little bit lower than you, but they got to come out with $18,000 out of pocket right away. Who do you think that customer is going to go with? So you can truly use financing to win out over your competitors, again, by helping your consumer hang on to their money. And it doesn't cost you as a contractor. You do an average blended cost when most of the loans that you're getting are free. I mean, you're not getting, if somebody pays you with a credit card, that's not free. There's a cost for you to do that.
Yeah, so I'll provide a little color on this because this was something I learned just in my time. I was probably, call it before we met GoodLeap, it was, hey, how do we offer the longest term with no interest and all of these things? And what we saw, and this is a free nugget for listeners if you want to improve your numbers next year immediately, is we were running an HVAC install. We were running about 8% of total sales was financing fees. And we've been able to, utilizing this loan with no dealer fees, our financing fees are under 2%. And we finance 83% of everything we put in. So almost everything is financed and our dealer fees are under 2%. Now, what does that mean for you as a listener? Well, what that means is your gross profit just went up considerably. And that was the way that we were able to do it. Now, you can't position this type of loan at the very end after they've already said, oh my God, I can't afford $12,000. And then you offer it to them. We work a lot on the front end of teaching our people how to identify what type of customer. We're not afraid to come out and say, hey, the majority, which is true, the majority of our customers utilize financing options. Would you consider yourself in that camp, or are you more a cash buyer? And they'll tell you flat out, no, I'm a cash buyer. I won't pay cash for everything. That's my dad. He does that. But the majority of buyers are looking to fit something into their budget. And you've hit it perfectly, is a lot of times right now, our sales pitch on buying something is, hey, we can get you in this a really low monthly payment. You can spend your money, use your credit card for Christmas, all of those things that are coming up that are way more important than your HVAC system. And then you can pay it off whenever you want. So if you get your tax return back, if you get all of these things that are coming around the corner, well, then you can use that money to pay this down. And all of a sudden, you still have that low monthly payment if you want, but you can kind of chunk it down as you go. And so I think that's critical, because oftentimes if you don't use financing, you just go with what your equipment manufacturer said. What I would tell you is, I love our equipment manufacturers. Do not listen to them when they are giving you advice on consumer financing. The only reason they're giving you advice is because they've cut a deal with some person to give you some rate that's still astronomically high. So just don't do that. It's silly. I learned the same lesson. So don't think that you're silly. It's just they've set you up in a program that's just not great. Whereas here, what we found is, one, a partner that supports us, and two, plans that work for the contractor and they work for the customer. And if they work for both of us, then we've got a good situation. It can't work for just one side or the other.
And I think it's just brilliant the way you guys have structured it, because like you said, at the end of the day, you've just added money to your bottom line. Use financing for it to become a profit center for you guys.
You got it. And, HVAC install is about 60 to 65% of our total business. So we have to have a solution there if that's going to continue to be a big part of our business. So all exciting stuff on the financing front. I think that I can't say it enough of how critical of a partner you guys have been, you specifically, obviously, in helping our guys understand financing, teach it. I mean, that is almost a full day course here. Before you ever go out into the field, you're learning about financing. And there's just so many opportunities to position yourself in a place to help more and more customers out there. What I want to get into now is a really exciting thing. So obviously GoodLeap has graciously agreed to be one of our partners on the podcast moving forward, and hopefully continue to provide insight into this financing piece. We've talked about some other things that we may be doing in the future where we can have a open forum of ask all your financing questions. We want to be here to help, and different things like that where we can provide value for the listeners. I guess maybe to let the listeners in on, what about partnering with the podcast was intriguing to you and your team? Why did you guys decide to come on board and provide value together?
Yeah, I think for one, because we have had such an incredible run for 2 years and this level of success. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years and I say it all the time. This has been one of the most fulfilling, rewarding partnerships that I have been involved with. And being able to see how you guys have really, truly grown your business and your company from 400 people, I think when I met you to, I don't even know exactly where you're at now, but I know
over 600. Yeah.
You doubled the size of your company in 2 years. That's incredible. And so by using this platform and being able to do these podcasts and stuff, I think just being able to get the word out, because I feel like a big part of your mission and your company's mission is helping other companies. I've seen it firsthand. And so, this is one of those applications that people should be doing it, but there's still a lot of smaller companies that are scared of it for whatever reason. You mentioned the word stigma earlier. They think it's going to be too complicated, or it's going to kill the sale, or it's going to be too expensive. And then when they finally understand just how truly easy and helpful and imperative it is for them to be using financing, and they get on board. But you're such a leader in the industry, Chad, and it's been such a privilege not only to work with you, but also everyone in your company. And so being able to align with you and get that message out to people so that we can help other companies grow and follow that roadmap that you put out there. That for me is what's super exciting. My why is I'm very fortunate. I love my job. I really do. And I love the fact that I offer service that I can get up every day and I know I can help someone. I can help your consumer get those things that they absolutely desperately need. I can help your guys provide for their families by closing more deals. I can help you grow your company. Yeah, I can help GoodLeap grow. And, that's an incredible, rewarding position to be in. I love what I do. And being able to have a platform to share that and to get more people on board and to help more people open their eyes to seeing how truly financing can grow your business. It's not just a cliche. You guys have proven it. You've got actual numbers and stats. And so being able to get that message out there, I think is pretty empowering. It's pretty exciting.
That's fantastic. And, we've got a number of great partners. And I think to your point that the big push with partnering with people like yourself and organizations like you is to do just that. It's to provide tactical information that you can take from this podcast and you can go put it into your business tomorrow and it's going to help. Now, what I will tell you is that if you just take this at face value and you try to implement it, there's a lot of things that are kind of behind the scenes. And to me, that's what we want to kind of, pull the curtain back on, is all of these things, in which I think we've done a great job early on or throughout this podcast of really kind of debunking some of these myths and different things that people have with consumer financing, and really unveil, hey, here's someone that you can go to and help. And there again, there's others out there for sure. We've just created a relationship with you that has been really rewarding. And so as you look at potential partners, it's really not only the financing, you've got to have the partner in the middle that can facilitate how are we using this product. If you've got a negative kind of stereotype about consumer financing, what I would guess is that a lot of it is around your understanding of consumer behavior and what they're thinking and all of that. And guess what? That's perfectly fine, because a lot of people that are in the home services trade came from a truck, came from the field. That's not something that me even understanding consumer behavior. I'm like, what is that? What do you mean consumer behavior? We sell furnaces. What are you talking about? But it's really taking a deeper dive. And I think you guys have really uncovered a lot of things in that realm that can really help move companies forward. You guys truly are a growth partner. And you're right. We could not have grown like we have without consumer financing. A world where that doesn't exist doesn't even, I'd have to cut my budget in half next year if you said you can no longer use consumer financing.
Not an option anymore. In the world that we live in, it's required.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, we've seen a couple of maybe 2 or 3 interest rate hikes. And the one thing that I always come out of the one thing we get, interest rates, the rates are going up, this, that, and the other. But as you've pointed out a couple of times, they're still about half of what your credit card is. So they're still good. They're still really good and a lot better than you're going to find out there.
Absolutely. And go try to get a home construction loan. See how long that takes from your bank. A lot of people are I'll just go get a construction loan. Good luck with that, because that's probably one of the hardest loans out there to get your hands on. And then when you do finally go through the 60, 90 days of red tape to get one, look at the interest rate you're going to be sitting on. So, and at that point, you haven't had meat for 3 months.
Yep.
The other thing too that is just really cool about being able to offer this is just how easy it is. I mean, a lot of people want to think it's complicated. It's going to kill the deal. Nope. You can literally submit an app and get that green light to install 5 to 7 minutes. Do you have 5 to 7 minutes to sit there and not lose your deal?
100%.
Super easy. I mean, we've got an app. All of us are now very accustomed to using apps. We do it on a daily basis. It really is a very simple, easy process.
Absolutely. And I think that's a point not to overlook too, because one of the other pushbacks that I get is it's too difficult. You got to fill out all these forms. How am I going to do this? I can't this, that, or the other. Maybe tell us a little bit about how easy GoodLeap's platform is.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you literally go to the App Store, you download the app. You can have 1 or 2 people on the loan. Let's just say you've got both people on the loan. It maybe takes 3 to 4 minutes to put in the information necessary. Real basic stuff: name, address, phone number, birthday, income, real easy stuff. Say 3.5, 4 minutes, you've got the entire application filled out on your tablet. Everything's done online, so there's no paper whatsoever. And you're going to get a decision on that application, usually in 4 to 5 seconds. So you're going to know immediately, were they approved? Were they not approved? If they were approved, how much were they approved for? So you're going to exactly know what that budget is for that customer. And then if for some reason they got declined, you give me a call or someone at GoodLeap, and we see if there's possibly something we can do to turn that decline into an approval. So the entire process is incredibly simple. Even on our app, we have a training demo site where you can go as a brand new employee. We don't ever want somebody running an app for the first time in front of a customer. So we've got a really great demo. Takes you about 5 minutes. Again, work 5 minutes of your time. If you're a comfort advisor to go out and use this to close deals, just use that training, that demo center. Get really confident with how easy it is to submit an app. So when you're in front of that customer, you've got the credibility, and it's like, yeah, we're going to run this for you. We're going to get you approved and hopefully get this scheduled and installed tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. You alluded to it a little bit, and I know what you're talking about, but I want listeners to be clear on this. Tell me a little bit about how GoodLeap approves people. And I'm talking more so on it's not an exact job amount. It is, I'll let you take it from there.
One thing that really makes us stand out, we started this off with what makes us different. Well, I think, we talked about customer service, obviously, but the way that we underwrite these loans truly does make us different. So what we're doing is we are pulling all 3 credit bureaus for that person on the application. So if you've only got 1 person on the loan, we're going to look at all 3 credit bureaus. We're going to take that highest FICO score. Most companies out there are either just going to pull from 1 bureau, or if they do pull from all 3, they're going to take that middle score to make that decision. So you've just increased your odds by, pulling that highest FICO. And if you add a second person on the loan, you just doubled your odds to get approved, because now we're going to take the highest of 6 scores instead of the highest of 3. So that's one of the reasons why our approvals right now are 20 to 30% higher than most other lenders in the space, simply because of just how we go out and underwrite. And then we really have some very generous guidelines on debt to income, because there's 2 reasons typically why people don't get approved for financing. It's going to be they don't have a high enough credit score, or their DTI or their debt to income ratio is just too, they've got too much debt. So we've got some really generous guidelines for DTI. I mean, if you've got at least one of those credit scores that we pull is over 700 and the deal's under 25,000, which is the majority of what you guys sell. I mean, the average ticket is going to be under 25,000 typically. We don't even look at DTI. So that's one less hurdle for that person to have to get over to get financing. So, we don't do risk-based financing. When Fed started raising interest rate at an unprecedented level, a lot of companies had to kind of pivot and do risk-based financing decisions. We didn't have to do that. We never changed our underwriting guidelines throughout all of these interest rate upticks. So, we still, on our counteroffer second look loan, we can still buy down to a 600 FICO. A lot of companies aren't doing that. And then the other thing I think that's really important, along with the credit scores and the approval rating, is the fact that we don't do partial approvals. This is huge, because if you're sitting there at the table and that customer submits an application and it comes back, well, you got approved, but you only got approved for 3,000. And the system's 12,000 or 18,000. That's not going to help anybody. So on our prime loan, the minimum approval amount is $25,000. We can go up to $55,000 based on that highest FICO. We've got a couple of bands. And even on the second loan, they're going to get 24,750. And for somebody that's got a little bit more challenged credit profile, A, if they get approved, and B, if they get approved for 24,000, you might see them do a cartwheel. They're going to be super excited because they didn't even think they were going to get anything. And they were going to have to put it on a credit card, paying 28%. But now they can get a loan that's extremely reasonable and fits their budget.
100%. And I think all of those things are extremely important to the contractor. The one that I will kind of allude to, and this has just been something we've been able to do because of our partnership, is when you're getting people approved for $25,000 or even up to $55,000 or whatever it is, a lot of the financing companies before, you had to put in exactly the job total. Well, what that prevents you from doing is getting people pre-approved. And so we have a system, knowing that we need to condition the customer to utilizing financing. We have a text message that goes out to all of this is in the afternoon, it'll go out maybe in an hour or so to all the customers that have an estimate scheduled for tomorrow. And it will say just what I've said. It will say the majority of our customers utilize financing options. If you'd like to cut out some time during your appointment tomorrow, feel free to fill out this application and get pre-approved. What that then does is it tags that job as pre-approved. The comfort advisor already knows that the customer is approved for so many dollars. And those jobs, if we can get them pre-approved, and why we work so hard to get them pre-approved is, one, makes the comfort advisor's job a heck of a lot easier because they know what they're working with. And it also allows us to convert a heck of a lot higher. If you've already been approved and you know that you need to do something, the chances of you moving forward with a job are pretty darn high.
It's literally 93%, Chad. If somebody submits an app and gets approved, 93% of the time, they're going to give you the green light to move forward and that deal is going to close. That's huge.
Yep.
We actually developed that for you guys. And now it's a standard item for all kinds. You guys paved the way for that. And we came out in Indiana and we sat down and we put together this API link and built it for you guys. And now we have the luxury of being able to do that for everybody. You guys paved the way for that. So thank you for being our guinea pig on that.
Yeah.
But it has been now, if I look at everybody in your company that's submitting apps, the highest one submitted, is that online approval. And you're using that wonderfully. And like you said, you can now go out to an appointment. And for some reason, if they fill it out and it doesn't get approved, you can call me and then we can figure out what do we need to do before you make that hour drive to get out there to see if we can get them approved.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you think we've talked primarily about big ticket items, we offer pre-approval on every single service call. So if you book an appointment online, the last step is, well, if you'd like to get pre-approved, feel free to do so in about 5 seconds because they don't need a whole lot of information to fill it out and they'll get that approval. And it's just been extremely, extremely beneficial for our business. And I know it can be beneficial to tons of others out there. It's just a matter of being open to the idea. If you're going to grow your business, you're going to have to think outside the box. My big quote I've been hanging on here lately is, if you're not dreaming outside the box, you're not really dreaming at all. And I think the same thing goes with growing a company. If you're thinking of how we did business 10 years ago, and that's how you're still operating, you're going to struggle to grow in today's environment with things changing as fast as they're changing.
Yeah. And I would say not even struggle to grow, but struggle to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gail, I think that as we come up kind of on time here, just some incredible information that I think people can act upon. We're going to put Gail and GoodLeap, all their contact information in the show notes. So if you want to reach out to them and talk to them more, feel free to do so. Obviously, you can reach out to me if you need real life testimonial. I'll give it to you. But feel free to reach out to them, investigate it a little bit, understand that a lot of it is not so much the product. There's a ton of people who offer financing. It is finding the right partner who you can grow with, and then really wrapping your mind around, how do I present this to customers? I think that's the most important thing. So as we kind of finish out, Gail, would you like to leave the listeners with anything that you think is really important that you want to make sure that you get across?
Yeah, just, I'm excited. We're going to be doing some future podcasts with you. I've talked to my boss, our VP, Eric Howard, about coming on and doing one. I know that we've been strategizing about some other stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff ahead. This is a lot of great information, especially as we're going into a new year. People are looking at ways to kind of overcome some of the challenges that we all got hit with in 2023 and make 2024 really profitable and successful. So again, want to just very thankful and grateful for this partnership that we've had and all the success that we've had with that. And I think it'll be really cool to share that and hopefully have other people emulate it. So that to me is very exciting.
Absolutely. And, as the podcast it says, you can't stop the growth. And with partners and tools that we're going to be hopefully, really leaning into over 2024, we hope to provide a ton of just actionable things that you can do to grow your business, grow your top line, grow your gross margin, grow your bottom line, all of those things that in what everybody is predicting to be a tough year are going to help you move through it and move through it efficiently and effectively. And so as you think about growth, think about the people that you surround yourself with. I've got a group of amazing partners here that are going to help us. GoodLeap is, as you've heard on this podcast, a huge part of our success and will continue to be into the future. But really excited about our growth journey that we're going to go on in 2024. 2023 has been tough. 2024 is going to be tough. And we're going to have to get really good at doing what we do. That's not a reason to contract. It's a reason to lean into growth and get better with what we have. You already have the leads. Now, how do we get more of them closed? How do we get more happy customers out there that can, spread the word and continue to grow our businesses? So, Gail, again, thank you so much for coming on. This has been fantastic. I know you said this was your first one. You did phenomenal at this. I'm sure that the listeners will think much the same. But listeners out there, a ton of great value to come in 2024. I'm excited about what we have here. And as always, never stop growing out there. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get connected, you can find me at chadmpeterman.com. To see what our team's up to, you can visit petermanbros.com. As always, keep growing out there.